Hello, beautiful ladies. I am so happy to have you as an audience for many of the things that I want to share with you, but also I'm really happy to have a way to spread the word more about something I've discovered about the Kibbe system. So, Kibbe seems like a really nice system. It seems like instead of us having to dress in order to trick the eye to make it look like we're all closer to a single ideal body type, it has us instead emphasize the way that we're different. It sounds really good, but I found a flaw in the system, which doesn't have to be considered a flaw, but someone could talk about it. Nobody's talking about it. I feel like it's the elephant in the room. So we could talk about one of the shorter types first. So gamines. They might not fit the beauty standard in a few ways. If you think the beauty standard is to look tall, they don't meet it. Gamines are actually supposed to dress to emphasize how short they are. The Kibbe system's not the fruit system, which is, dividing bodies by looking like an hourglass, apple, pear, banana, carrot. So all types are able to have smaller, large breasts, smaller, large hips, smaller, large waists. But, if a gamine is flat-chested, the style recommendations for gamine might emphasize that, as opposed to having her dress in a way in which to show off her breasts the best she can. So, for example, gamines are encouraged to wear high necklines as opposed to, perhaps wearing a push-up bra so they still look good in a low-cut shirt, for example. I am a dramatic, and I don't dress to the style recommendations for a dramatic because I don't think it makes sense in the larger cultural context. A dramatic is someone who doesn't need to emphasize their waist. And I have a fairly small waist compared to my bust and hip. And I just think that to, the eye not trained in Kibbe, it does look better to emphasize my waist. So I follow the soft dramatic recommendations. The exact reason why I am a dramatic instead of a soft dramatic is that even though I have a large chest, it doesn't disrupt my silhouette on the sides. Whereas if I were a soft dramatic, my chest, whether it were large or small, would disrupt my silhouette on the sides, and I wouldn't have as much of a straight up and down silhouette as a dramatic does. So Kibbe is, to me, very strange because in the old version of the system, you had automatic vertical starting at 5'7", and we're gonna have the new book coming out very soon, but there's already been some leaks from the new book. And it turns out he's lowered the height threshold for having automatic vertical to 5'6", which is crazy to me. It was crazy enough to me at 5'7". So this is a point that I have brought up over again online on forums where you talk about Kibbe, and the Kibbe technique is how to dress so that you look like you are following your lines according to the eye level of Mr. David Kibbe himself. And this is the case because Kibbe is the only one who can tell you for sure what your Kibbe type is. So there's discussion online of, who is a verified Kibbe type and who's not verified, because we will online talk about the styling choices of particular celebrities that we think are a particular Kibbe type, but that's a distinction from the celebrities that have actually been decided on by Kibbe to be a particular Kibbe type. And I tried to find Kibbe's height for this episode, for this video, and I couldn't find it for some reason. I've read it before, and I don't know why I couldn't find it when I looked. But Kibbe's height is not very tall. So since Kibbe is not very tall, he's gonna think that you're tall when you're not all that tall. So I, at 5'7", really don't think I'm tall. I am the shortest living member of my family. Yeah, normal cut clothes, sometimes they're too short in the sleeve, but I can make regular clothes off the rack work for me most of the time. I do sew, so I'm able to make things that do fit me better, but even like from what I see with standard off the rack clothes, I don't seem that tall. It seems like I'm somewhat accommodated by regular clothes, and I don't need to have clothes that are made for extra tall people. I would have never thought that I needed to dress differently for my height, except for a couple things. I've heard that if you're tall, you need to not wear as high of hemlines, but that's more so that the people who are short get to be the ones that wear the high hemlines and get to make their legs look longer than they actually are, which again is advice that you find outside the Kibbe world, that it has the total opposite approach where all people are expected to dress in a way to make their bodies be perceived as closer to the beauty ideal, as opposed to emphasizing the features that they naturally have. My mother taught me a lot of the standard rules for how to dress well, which again are opposite to what Kibbe teaches. Kibbe teaches the opposite of the standard advice, which I think people don't explain very clearly when they're talking about Kibbe. So one thing my mother taught me was that if you are fat, you need to wear larger prints, and if you are skinny, you need to wear smaller prints. And she taught me that that's what you need to do to look proportionate. And I'm not fat. I'm not particularly skinny, but I never thought I was so fat that I need to wear large prints in order for my clothes to look right. So I would wear prints of any size and not think that I was somebody who needed to make sure I was wearing prints of the right size in order to look good. And learning about Kibbe, apparently that's not the only approach. So in Kibbe, instead of dressing according to how fat you are, you're dressing according to your type, which is two things. It is your frame and how your flesh lays on your frame, which is basically there's basically frame dominant types, and flesh dominant type. So for dramatic versus soft dramatic, the dramatic is all frame, and they don't need to have anything nipped in at the waist in order for their clothes to look good. Although all types are able to wear tailored and fitted clothes in some way and for it to look good. And then the soft dramatic is still a dramatic, still mostly frame, but needing to accommodate for their flesh a little bit. So they don't need their clothes to be skin tight so you see everything, but they need their clothes to be a little nipped in at the waist. And Kibbe types are consistent no matter what weight you are. So if you gain weight or lose weight, or if you gain or lose muscle instead of fat, you still are supposed to stay the same Kibbe type. But I found a flaw with the system. So if a soft dramatic or a dramatic, is tall, they're also larger in all the other dimensions. The third type that's also possible is for someone historically over 5'7" and now currently over 5'6", is the flamboyant natural. So if you're over those heights, then you have to be either a dramatic, soft dramatic, or flamboyant natural, and you don't have another choice for another type that you could be. And you could be shorter also and be any of these types, but let's say that you are these types because you're tall. You're not just going to be tall, you're also going to be larger in other dimensions. So if you're tall, you have to dress in order to emphasize being tall. That's not the only way in which you're bigger. I feel like it's very much coded into the system. I know especially for soft dramatics, since that's the recommendations I choose to follow, so I have those most thoroughly studied myself. I know that, because I am physically larger than other people, I can dress to look large. And since I'm taller than other people, I could also dress to look tall. But the Kibbe system does not explicitly say, when it says that you must emphasize vertical, that you are doing that in order to make sure you aren't just looking generally large. It's and I don't see this in the other types. In the other types, every single unique characteristic of theirs they're supposed to emphasize. But with soft dramatics, and probably with dramatics and flamboyant naturals also, you're not supposed to just generally emphasize how large you are. You are supposed to emphasize how tall you are, because being tall is the only way it's acceptable for a woman to be large. I feel like it very clearly has that intention, and I just wish that someone would be upfront about it. It has been very helpful to me, because as I've thought back on my outfits that did not meet the soft dramatic styling recommendations, I could see how, because it didn't emphasize how tall it was, it just had the effect of emphasizing how large it was. So it was that these outfits that I thought should look good on me ended up just making me look fat. So yeah, Kibbe, I think, teaches soft dramatics how to look tall without just looking fat. I wish they'd explicitly say this, because that could be helpful to some women to know, oh, I look fat in all my clothes just because I'm tall, and I need to make sure I'm dressing in a way in which I'm perceived as tall instead of just being perceived as big. For some women, they'd appreciate that. Some women would really not appreciate that and go throw a system in the garbage if it claimed to say that women of all shapes and sizes are beautiful, except the ones that are big need to make sure that they look tall, because if they just looked big, then they'd look fat, and that's not acceptable. I hope this is helpful to you. I've brought it up, like I said, on forums before. People tend to get stuck on the idea that, the style system still works, no matter what height the person is that's looking at you. They seem to not want to hear me that this system is extra silly because it was invented by a guy who is shorter than every man in my family. He's not tall to me. And I don't think I'm tall. I'm the shortest living member of my family. Why? Of course he'd think I'm tall. But I mean, in my little corner of the universe, I'm not really that tall. And I've heard, other people online complain, well, in my country, the women are just taller, so it's really silly that you only have 3 types if you are 5'6" or 5'7", because that means pretty much all the women only get to have 3 height options. Anyways, maybe you won't agree with me. It seems like when I've talked about this elsewhere, a lot of people don't seem to agree with me, but some people really appreciate my perspective, and I like it when my opinion gets out to those people. Feel free to spread my idea all around that. When Kibbe says that people with automatic vertical need to emphasize vertical, what he's really saying is that they are big, and the only acceptable way to be big is to be tall. Even though the other types that are short, they're allowed to, short and small, you can emphasize that you're short and small. That's okay. But you can't just dress in a way that makes you look big without being tall. Like I said, a lot of women will find that idea problematic. Some women will find it helpful to know why they have been trying to dress in a way that makes them not look fat. It hasn't worked. I hope that helps you. Have a wonderful day. Bye.